Good morning, traders. It's Friday, December the 13th. Taking a look at the charts, we've got the SP 500 daily chart. We got some pretty good volatility going on this morning in terms of just price swings. The market was up about 0.6%, and then we just had some news hit the market in the last 5 or 6 minutes here. We can see the 10-minute chart. We saw a quick drop, some volume, and the market's just trying to kind of reset. Now you can see if we take a look back at the daily chart here. The trend is to the upside. We broke to new highs. Yesterday, the market broke out. There was some news as well with the breakout. The market did get a little bit overbought. It got overextended. We saw lots of money piling into the overall equities market, pushing price a little fast. But overall, the trend is back into an uptrend. It had a correction in terms of it's big enough where we saw the VIX spike, we saw put call ratio spike, and it more or less is a cleanse of the market. And the fact that we've moved to some new highs signals we are into one of these types of levels right here where the market has a correction and can kind of just keep on grinding its way higher. So this is another type of that correction. Now overall, the markets, our longer term cycle blend going forward here, when we see this cycle starting to break down from the top zone, that's usually when we start to see the market breaking down as well. We saw this over here where we got into a correction. Again, over here where the market started to put in the top, we saw it start to break down. And we are starting that just more or less last week. The market had this first break to the downside, started to bounce up, was on the verge of going into a deeper correction. But overall, news trumped the market. We saw it pop, and it's been holding up near the highs. And then yesterday, we saw a continuation pop to some new highs. Now, overall, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the market trade sideways for a few sessions. The type of move, percentage-wise, momentum-wise, that we had yesterday is very similar to this, where the market can pop up, and then it might take a few days to digest before potentially going higher. So overall, I wouldn't be surprised if the market trades sideways, consolidates, but overall, I think we are kind of headed for the market to continue to grind higher and go into the end of the year. Now, if we take a look over at, let's pull up the chart of bonds. Bonds up a little bit this morning. Yesterday, obviously, equities broke to the upside, bonds flushing to the downside. Again, they continued to sell off and overnight, testing those lows from over here. And then we saw a bounce this morning to be relatively flat on the session today, just slightly higher. But overall, they're still in corrective phase here. Now they were breaking to the upside over here, but they've lost the momentum. They've started to turn to the downside. And now money continues to be flowing into the risk off going into, or the risk on, sorry, into the equities at this point going forward. Now, if we take a look over at the gold, this blue line here is the 50-day moving average, and you can see the longer term trends here. Gold consolidates, and more or less it's trading under that level, very similar to what we've seen in the past. And really we need to see this momentum start to turn to the upside. You can see when all the moving averages, the 5, the 20, and the 50-day all start to, we see price break through it all. For them to start to expand to the upside, we can get a nice big run. And this was a big consolidation equals a big run. We've got an equally big consolidation, and we're expecting a big run. You can see how it's testing the 50-day. It's testing this level right across here. It's more or less a very significant resistance level horizontally on the chart. When it starts to break through that, it could be the signs of a pretty big move to the upside. And you can see the cycles down here at the bottom. More or less they're trading in this lower range, trying to carve out a bottom, and then finally the cycle starts to break to the upside, and that's when we start to see the price move. And we're doing the same thing. The market cycles are bottoming out. We got lots of little cycles keeping some downward pressure. The longer term cycle is still on the downswing. It feels like it's working its way up, but overall we're looking for the cycle to start to extend to the upside. And then we're looking for a multi-month correction. You can see the waves in the market usually last 2 to 4 months of upside and then downside, upside, downside. And we're coming out of what looks to be a corrective phase, and we could go into a multi-month rally, which would spark obviously silver, miners, all those things. If we take a look over at silver, Silver still trading to the downside. Again, similar type of price action. Silver consolidated under the 50-day, finally broke to the upside, started to rally up, and now here we are again under the 50-day. Pretty clear falling trend lines on these charts. When you start to get a breakout, you get an early warning sign. If we look at these recent highs, we're still pretty far from wherever you want to draw these highs. We're still testing these levels, more or less stair-stepping its way down with a series of bear flags. And it could still have some more work to do before it breaks out. But overall, we are looking for the metals sector to eventually start to turn up here sooner than later over the next month or so. Taking a look over at the miners, here's the GDX J. You can see here more or less it's popped above the 50-day. It's broken this high. Yesterday we had a gap to the upside and then a sell-off to the downside. Pretty good move down at one point during the day, recovered some of it. Overall, still flirting with these recent highs. The momentum is shifting to the upside. And usually we see gold miners lead the price of gold itself. So overall, they all are showing signs of life. They're above the 50-day, but we haven't really seen the overall metals market really turn to the upside just yet. And if the equities market's going to continue to rally, we could very easily see the miners continue to pull back and work themselves out a little bit. If money is going to flow into equities, these safe haven plays might consolidate a bit more. And overall, we could be looking to get long gold or the gold miners. But at this point, if gold miners are leading the way, we can look to get long gold on a breakout or a pre-breakout bullish pattern on gold if that's the case. But we're keeping our eyes peeled for a setup there. They're not fully in the clear just yet, but the miners are showing signs of life to the upside going forward. Taking a look over at energies, natural gas was down 3% this morning, over 3%. It has rebounded back. Overall, we're in this kind of downward cycle phase still, with the market trying to put in a bottom. You can see over here this cycle, this moving to the downside. We had similar type of price action here, again over here. More or less, we want to see the cycle start to move higher, like we've seen, or put in a bottom, start to move higher, and for this basing formation to form on the charts. Overall, we're getting into this point here where the market's gapping down, starting to put in a bottom formation. Maybe it's going to build some bull flag. We'll be looking to get long when the time comes, but we're at this point, it's still very volatile. It could still continue to go down. It could do 3 surges to a low, 1, 2, 3. If that's the case, it could be a good buying opportunity if it comes back down to this level over here. Could be an opportunity to take a small position to try and pick a bottom, because 3 surges to a low on big volatility, big gaps and big swings, usually the sign that it's about to reverse. And with our cycles bottoming out, could give us an early play to get in for a knee-jerk reaction and then potentially hold it for a much larger rally going forward. Looking over at crude, up 1% this morning. Crude continues to climb this wall, this rising channel here. You can see it's constantly testing this upper range, pulls back, gets back to the upper range, and it's pushing up to the 60 mark. We'll see how things shake out. Again, we'll be looking for some type of reversal pattern. At this point, at any point, we could see a very sharp pullback. We've seen it happen many times here going forward. When it gets to the upper zone, it sells off. We've seen it happen 3 times, and this looks like it is primed and ready for another one. But overall, the trend is still up within this channel. If we were to just draw a line across here, we're still working our way up in this channel. It was very close to breaking down over here, breaking this pivot low, but the market recovered within the next session and then got back to pushing multi-month highs again. So overall, crude is trending higher. Wouldn't be surprised to see a pullback at any day now with some big volatility in price, but overall it is channeling its way higher. Anyways, that's it for this morning, and I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.